So I don't make political content on my page because of my own personal experience with speaking my mind on political topics. I went to a very liberal arts college, heavy on the liberal aspect. It was basically an echo chamber of liberal indoctrination, and I barely came out of there with a sane mind because any opinion that I had that wasn't 100% on board with liberals caused me to be socially ostracized, criticized with every name in the book: racist, homophobic, bigot, this, that, and the third, which couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, I used to be the biggest liberal out there. I actually organized and hosted my own protests when George Floyd died. Just you guys are gonna laugh, but I also had a septum piercing. I had blue hair, so I know that stereotype is out there. So it's kind of true, but that's how I was back around 2019, 2020, just that era. Where things started to change was when I started to get a lot of pushback and criticism for just speaking my own opinions on college campus. It really shook me deeply to my core and made me self reflect, research a lot of topics, and I just started diving more into conservative opinions. So I started watching people like Amir Odom on YouTube, Amala Akanobi, Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, Piers Morgan, Blair White, all of those prominent YouTube channels, started watching their videos, and I started realizing how much the left has brainwashed me in a way. Just my way of thinking was very much a victim mentality, and I wasn't happy when I was a Democrat. I was very like upset, angered all the time, wasn't happy with myself. I wasn't at my healthiest back then either. So I think those are very interesting correlations. Now, it may not be the case for everyone, and it probably isn't, but for me personally, that was my experience as a Democrat. And I do think that part of the reason why that was is because the Democrat mindset is that you are a victim, subject to your circumstances as an Afro Latina Black woman here in America. It's like, oh, you have no rights because you're Black and it's hard for you. You're probably poor and you can't do anything. You can't make your life better. Just, things like that just really, when you internalize them, it becomes your reality, right? So that was like my reality back then.
Now, I have to comment on this part because you have so many immigrants that come over here from other countries, right? They're black, they're Dominican, Africans, Spaniards, and Europeans, and they come over here and they open up businesses, and then they expand those businesses and open up chain restaurants and chain companies, all kinds of stuff. And when they look at us, Americans that have lived here all of their lives, they wonder, like, what's wrong with you? Why are you not succeeding? She mentioned how she comes from a family, they're all doing very well. Um, it's only a couple of them that aren't doing that well, but they made choices to do things that, take drugs and all kinds of stuff. And that made the difference in their lifestyle. But there's no excuse nowadays. No excuse. I look at my grandfather. My grandfather owned most of the gas stations in Harlem, and this was before the 1960s. Is it C.J. Adams that owned the hair company, Hair Pomade? Okay, you have so many people that assessed millions. Black Wall Street, that was before the civil rights movement. So this whole victim mentality where we have to wait for the government to give us everything is just, to me, it's like media indoctrination. That's part of the indoctrination. But let's hear more of what this young lady is saying. She's on point.
And I had to wake up and realize that that's not the case. Like, my mom is very successful. This is a very good, high paying job. I was raised very comfortably, upper middle class. I was able to do whatever I wanted to do without an issue. And this was like when I was growing up. So the whole idea that just because I'm Black, I can't make the most of my situation is just completely false. Same applies to my family. There's hardly anybody in my family who's really struggling. If it's, that's not due to their own choices. Of course, I have some family members who are not doing as well as they could be, but they chose to do drugs. They chose to stay in really bad areas, which of course also impact how you view life. Everything has a cause and effect. And I started realizing that. And then, of course, with Charlie Kirk passing away and being assassinated, I actually had never seen any Charlie Kirk's videos. I actually, to be honest, I didn't really know who he was. I had heard of him, but I just didn't really know who he was. So when my coworker told me that Charlie Kirk was shot, I had to look into it, of course, because I didn't know if he was Republican, if he was liberal. I just didn't know. I didn't know where he stood. And ever since then, I've just been down the rabbit hole of Charlie Kirk's videos, and I just can't understand the hatred that this man had gotten.
You have to comment on that as well. My grandchildren were Charlie Kirk's fans. And they mentioned to me a few months ago about Charlie Kirk. And then they looked at me and laughed. You don't know Charlie Kirk? And I'm like, no. And because I'm a helicopter grandmother, I said, let me just look into this young man and see who it is that these kids are listening to. I'm involved with everything that they're involved with. I want to know who their coaches are at school, blah, blah, blah. So at first, I started looking at some of the quotes, and I'm like taken aback a little bit. Like, maybe this kid is maybe he has some issues. And then I started to watch his debates, his college debates. And I noticed that a lot of the debates that he was having was regarding religion, Christianity. He was talking about people's lifestyles. He was telling young people, young men to get married. He was talking to women about, unaliving their children. He was talking to the alphabet community. He was talking about the trans agenda and that sort of thing, and pretty much letting people know that they had better lives ahead of them, and life was better with Jesus Christ. These were his opinions, but he didn't degrade other people for their opinions. He just wanted debate. He just wanted to share knowledge and share opinions. So it's a shame this has happened.
As someone who's also wrestled with my own faith, I grew up in a very traditional Christian household. I know what it's like to just, wrestle with that and your connection with God. Um, just in watching his videos, this actually strengthened my relationship with God. It's brought me closer to him just to see how passionate, how secure he was in his faith. It's actually very admirable. And you can believe what you want. I don't care what you believe in. I just know from me how I was raised. It was deeply moving for me to see a man like that, especially in today's day and age, just so proud of his faith and proud to share that with other people. I'm always scared to bring up my faith in conversation because of the criticism that I've gotten in the past, um, and also my own personal struggles as well. But watching his videos just showed me how dark and demonic
Mhm.
people have been in their reaction to his assassination. I had a coworker post to a story, let's thank so and so for using her birthday powers to kill Charlie Kirk. Comments like that are just so disgusting. I actually can't fathom why anybody would think it's okay to post that.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest Kamala fan, but if she was assassinated, I would not feel joy about that. And I just think it says a lot about a person when they do express those types of feelings openly online, especially when things like that happen. Now, you can feel however you want about Charlie Kirk. I certainly don't agree with him on every single take he's had, but I would not wish for anybody to be assassinated for just speaking their opinion, especially how he did it so eloquently, respectfully. It didn't matter who you are, black, white, brown, anything in between, mixed, from a different country as well, because many people from overseas also loved Charlie Kirk.
Mhm.
If you're trans, gay, non-binary, any part of the rainbow, if you were on that spectrum, he would still treat you like a human being.
Yeah, appreciate you guys pulling up, man. This thing went a little longer than I expected, but I just wanted to let her flesh out, her feelings and her experience. And I know so many people that send their kids off to college campuses, and you think you're doing the right thing. You think you're doing the right thing, but in all actuality, you're actually sending your children into the lion's den. You're sending them into the lion's den. And let's just keep it a buck. A lot of these college campuses across the country, they're not safe spaces for people that are Christians. They're not safe spaces for people that are conservative, more times than not. Not to say that you can't get through it, but if you have a difference of opinion of the majority of these people on these campuses, you're going to be called everything but a child of God.
And he's absolutely right. This is Wise from a Righteous Perspective. Make sure you check out his stuff. I'm Renee from Kingdom Politico. Welcome back. Make sure you like and subscribe and share this video. But colleges have been for a long time indoctrination camps. That's why it always was important to me to make sure that my children had a firm foundation before they were sent out into the world. You know who you are, you know what your beliefs are, you know what your morals are. And they were all raised Christian personally. They had to go to church every weekend, whether they wanted to or not. When you get grown, you can go out and do whatever it is that you want to do. And I attributed that to the word of God that says if you raise a child in the way that they should go, they will not depart from it. Because I understood Hitler's ideology and what he did with the schools. He had a quote in 1935, right? And it said, he who owns the youth gains the future. And this is what he said in 1935 in regards to the education system and indoctrinating kids and on college campuses, right? He told the adults, I don't need you. I have your kids. So as long as I can indoctrinate them, the future for me and my demonic agenda is secured. Okay? And we need to know that. We need to know the history of everything, the genesis of everything. So make sure that you have your eyes open. But I thank God that this young lady, and it seems the youth, God is raising up the youth. They're able to see. This is the second young lady that I heard that's come out here and has spoken against, this kind of indoctrination. So I am thrilled. I am so happy about this. But yeah, just make sure that you keep your eyes open. You got your kids going to college. Start them off young. Give them a firm foundation, and make sure you understand what your values are and who you're voting for, where you want to go, where you want this country to go. We all live in it, okay? But I want to thank you for watching. This is Renee from Kingdom Politico. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share, and check out Wise also on a Righteous Perspective. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.